They called for saviors, but Earth sent its monsters. The distress signal rippled through subspace like a scream carried on a hurricane. It passed through forgotten nebulae, shattered moons, and the broken hulls of old warships left drifting in cold silence. Its coding was ancient, so old that most civilizations no longer remembered the race that designed it. But Earth did. The moment the signal hit soul space, every listening post snapped awake. Automated warnings blared. Satellites reoriented. Hidden arrays, some known only to the highest-ranking humans alive, began decrypting. The message was simple. Requesting saviors. System collapse imminent. Hostile entities overwhelming. Coordinates attached. Any who hear, please answer. What the message didn't say, but every human recognized, was what kind of coordinates they were. A collapse zone. A place where wars burned planets to ash, where dying stars lit battlefields in sickly light, and where civilizations went to disappear. It was a graveyard, and someone was begging for help from inside it. Beginning, the ship that shouldn't exist. Fleet Admiral Reyna Voros stood in the command pit of the Eidolon, a ship of rumor, shadow, and half-whispered terror. It wasn't listed in any registry. It didn't legally exist. But the Eidolon was real enough to carve moons in half. It was the ship Earth sent when the problem wasn't hard. It was the ship Earth sent when the problem was impossible. A low chime sounded as her second-in-command, Commander Elias Vance, approached. "Admiral," he said, voice steady but eyes sharp. "The coalition's already heard the signal. They're debating a response." Reyna snorted. "Debating? Of course they are. They believe the threat might be too dangerous. The zone is marked as a Class 10 collapse." "Class 10, she murmured. "That's extinction level." Elias nodded. "Yes, ma'am. They won't send anyone." "Of course they won't." Her eyes hardened. "But we will." He hesitated. "The crew knows what Class 10 means." "Good," Reyna said. "Then they know what's at stake." The Eidolon rumbled as engines older than Earth's current governments roared awake. Human engineering, alien graftwork, experimental drive systems. None of it should function. Yet it did. Because humanity didn't build ships to be pretty. They built them to survive anything. Reyna watched the star map rotate as the collapse zone coordinates locked in. The system name flickered on holo display. Archelos 9. She didn't recognize it. Not surprising. Collapse zones were places even galactic historians avoided. "Open a fleet-wide channel," she ordered. Elias tapped his console. "You're live." Reyna took a breath. "All hands. This is Admiral Voros. Moments ago, Earth received a distress signal from Archelos 9. We don't know who sent it. We don't know who's still alive." She paused. "But we do know this. Nobody else is coming. So we will." Below her, hundreds of crew watched silently. "We aren't going as diplomats. We aren't going as explorers." Her voice sharpened. "We are going as monsters." A ripple of grim smiles spread across the decks. "Because that's what the galaxy calls us when we show up to the hard fights. And if calling us monsters means someone else gets to live another day." She nodded. "Then monsters we shall be." The channel closed. The Eidolon jumped. Middle, the ruins of Archelos 9. The system emerged from warp like a creature exhaling dust. Archelos 9 was a wasteland. Half the planets were cracked open, tectonic wounds glowing with magma. The star at the center pulsed erratically, like a heart failing under strain. Debris fields stretched thousands of kilometers. And in the silence, something moved. Reyna narrowed her eyes as dark, angular shapes swarmed across the system like locusts. The Jorok, a species the galaxy whispered about but never confirmed. They weren't a government or a people, but a phenomenon. Predators of entropy, entities that consumed civilizations not for conquest, but for instinct. Reyna had fought them twice before. Barely survived both. "Admiral," Elias said, voice tight, "I'm detecting life signs. A bunker on the shattered moon of Archelos Beta. Power signatures minimal. They're holding on by threads." "Put us down," Reyna ordered. The Eidolon carved through the wreckage, sliding between broken satellites and drifting corpses of warships. Its hull shimmered as it released suppressive fields that confused the Jorik, giving the ship a narrow corridor to descend. The surviving facility was a blackened dome half buried in the moon's dust. Reyna, Elias, and a ground team disembarked, each clad in void armor, the kind that turned humans from flesh into apex predators. Inside the bunker, they found them, small, fragile-looking, ammonites, by the shape of their shells. Faint bioluminescence flickered across their bodies, weak, fading. 8 survivors. One stepped forward, trembling. "Why you answered our call?" Reyna knelt to their height. "We did." "You're humans?" "Yes." At that, the creature began to cry, soft chittering keens that echoed in the bunker. "We prayed for saviors," it whispered. "For merciful ones. For gentle ones." Reyna exhaled slowly. "You won't find gentle ones here," she thought. But she said nothing. The Ammonite spoke again. "Our world is gone. The Jorik, they came from the dark between systems. They destroy everything. They don't communicate. They don't stop." "We know what they are," Reyna said. Another survivor crawled forward, frantic. "You must flee. They will detect you. They will come. No one survives them." Elias glanced toward the entrance. "They've already detected us." Reyna stood. "Evacuation is too slow. Defense is pointless." The Ammonites froze. "Then what will you do?" Reyna tapped her helmet, connecting to the ship. "Varos to Eidolon. Initiate protocol Cerberus." Elias's head snapped toward her. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "That's—" "Yes," she said. "The Jorik made this a Class 10 collapse. We're responding with Class 10 force." Above them, the moon shuddered as something enormous activated aboard the Eidolon. The ship's hull unfolded like a blooming metal flower, revealing 3 gargantuan constructs, each shaped like a mythic beast. Cerberus wasn't a weapon. It was 3. Hound, Maw, and Hellstar. Together, they were a system-level extinction countermeasure. Reyna looked down at the Ammonites. "You asked for saviors." She turned to the doorway, where the shadows of the Jorik swarmed closer. "You got us instead." The battle. Monsters in the dark. The sky cracked. Cerberus Hound launched first, a spear of black metal propelled by gravitational slingshot fields that warped space like water. It tore into the Jorik swarm, shredding them with distortions that made matter fold in on itself. Cerberus Maw followed, a vast rotating ring whose interior was a collapsing singularity. Anything entering its radius simply ceased. Then came Cerberus Hellstar, a sphere of plasma containment, storing the equivalent energy of a small sun. It pulsed once, and the system lit up. The Jorik surged in response, converging in patterns that were almost intelligent, adaptive, predatory. Thousands, then millions, then uncountable numbers swarmed toward the constructs. Reyna watched the battle hologram unfold aboard the Eidolon, jaw tight. "How many?" she asked. Elias swallowed. "Too many to count." "How many can we kill?" "Also too many to count." They exchanged a grim look. "Good." They went to work. Commands fired through the ship. Algorithms older than most civilizations activated. The constructs adapted, shifted, evolved, responding to Jorik formations with brutal efficiency. But the Jorik were evolving too. Clusters fused into megastructures. Some began generating null fields that destabilized Hound's distortions. Others fired beams of antimatter particle decay that chipped at Hellstar's containment barrier. Reyna hissed. "They're learning faster than before." "They consumed more civilization since the last time humans fought them," Elias said quietly. "They've grown. So have we." The Jorik megastructure aimed at the Eidolon. Reyna's voice thundered. "Deploy the Vesper Wing." 10 human exocets shot from the ship, each piloted by soldiers who volunteered for missions considered suicidal. Their armor was adorned with warnings in a dozen languages. "Caution. Human inside." The Vesper pilots dove through swarm after swarm, tearing apart Jorik clusters with weapons that burned holes in reality's fabric. One pilot laughed over comms. They're ugly. I love it. Another shouted. They're adapting to plasma fire, switching to grav shears. Reyna listened silently. Humans were many things. But when cornered, when the enemy was an extinction-level threat, they became something else. Not saviors. Not protectors. Monsters. And monsters were very, very good at fighting other monsters. The turning point, the thing in the star. Hours into the battle, the star's pulses grew erratic. Elias stared at the readings. Admiral, the star isn't collapsing naturally. Reyna frowned. Explain. There's something inside it. She turned sharply. Inside the star? Yes. It's feeding on it. That's what's powering the Jorak, what's coordinating them. He brought up a magnified display. Inside the star, wrapped in molten plasma like a cocoon, was a structure. No, an organism. A colossal entity of crystalline tendrils, each linked to the Jorak collective. It pulsed in rhythm with every Jorak attack pattern. Reyna's blood ran cold. A hive paragon. The Jorak central mind. Last time humanity encountered one, it took 3 fleets and a dead moon to kill it. This one was bigger. Much bigger. Elias whispered, if we don't kill that thing, the Jorak will overwhelm Cerberus. And us. How close can Hellstar approach the star before containment fails? Reyna asked. Too close, he said. The blast could wipe out the entire system. And if we don't, she asked. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Reyna's jaw tightened. Tell Hellstar to dive. The sacrifice of Hellstar. Cerberus Hellstar descended toward the burning star. Its containment sphere glowed hotter and hotter, layers peeling away as it forced itself deeper, past the corona, past the chromosphere, into the roiling inferno beneath. Finally, the hive paragon sensed it. Jorak formations broke apart in panic. Swarms hurled themselves toward Hellstar, shredding themselves in desperate attempts to stop it. They failed. Hellstar detonated. The star erupted in a blinding burst. The hive paragon shrieked across subspace, its psychic cry slicing through every mind in the system. The Jorak froze. Then, like puppets with severed strings, they collapsed. Reyna shielded her eyes as the shockwave rippled. When it faded, silence. Total silence. Cerberus Hellstar was gone. But the star stabilized. The Jorak were dead. And the system was safe. Ending the monsters they needed. Hours later, Reyna stood outside the bunker again. The Ammonite survivors stared at the sky, where debris now drifted peacefully, no longer trying to kill them. You, the smallest, whispered. You destroyed them all. Yes, Reyna said softly. You sacrificed your machines. Your soldiers. Reyna nodded. Another survivor stepped forward. We asked for saviors, it said. And you came. But your ways are terrifying. Reyna didn't apologize. Peacekeepers don't survive collapse zones, she said. Monsters do. The Ammonite looked up at her, fear and gratitude warring in its eyes. Will the galaxy fear you for this? It asked. They already do. And will you keep helping others? Reyna considered that. Finally, she said, when a call for help reaches Earth, even if it comes from a graveyard, we answer. Because we know what it is to be alone. The Ammonite bowed its glowing head. Then thank you, monsters of Earth. Reyna allowed herself a small smile. Come on, she said. Let's get you home. The Eidolon lifted from the ruined moon, its silhouette framed by a dying but stabilizing star. Across the system, wreckage drifted like the bones of defeated gods. Humanity had answered another impossible call. Not as saviors. Not as heroes, but as the galaxy's monsters, the kind that hunted worse things in the dark. And somewhere, deep in subspace, the remnants of the hive paragon's final psychic cry trembled like a fading echo. A warning, a prophecy, a promise. Do not call for humans unless you truly wish them to come, because they will, and what arrives will not be gentle.